Unfortunate events. Hello, Auntie Emma. Who is this child? When I was 8 years old, I had an unforgettable memory that I will tell you right now. During my summer vacation, my parent had sent me to my grandmother in my hometown for a few days. That's my grandson. His parents sent him here for his summer vacation. The woman who asked was my grandma's neighbor, probably. Oh, how great. The woman also seemed to be happy for my grandmother. Yes, she lived here alone. My parents or I did not come back to play with her for a while. This time I have a lot of summer vacation, so I will probably stay with her for quite a bit. After staying with her for a few days, there was a piece of the sad news that her grandmother's relative had passed away. That relative of hers did not live in the same village with her grandmother but rather far away. It took a few hours to get there by car. She could not feel secure and left me alone, so she took me with her. Oh my gosh, I am tired of driving, but I can't help but know what to do now. That day, since the traffic was running well, we just took 2 hours by bus. Our relative's family had treated all the visitors to a feast. Once we got there, I was pretty hungry, so my grandma brought me some food and asked me to stay put. Does everyone heard the news? I had eavesdropped on their conversation. It looked like that was an unexpected pass away. The family didn't prepare for it mentally. They were afraid they could have mistaken in announcing the bad news. Some of our relatives are going to come here later. Almost our relatives got the news by today already. I have asked some of our close relatives to help us out with the funeral. The day after, the family and some of their closest relatives went to a graveyard together. That was my first time seeing a burial, so I insisted my grandma bring me along. The graveyard was located in a foothill area, out of the village. I heard that each of the family in the town hosted their place in the cemetery for burying the dead bodies. I had followed my grandma to go there as well. They had stopped by at their spot. The workers unpacked their tool and started to dig in. I had stood there while I got boring. They were digging and digging, nothing else. Then I sneaked out and ran around. Why stopping? What happened? There must be a hard rock here, I think. I was running and curious, looking around some of the gravestones while listening to the crowd behind buzzed. So I thought that might have been something interesting. I headed back. I was such a little giddy and curious kid. Once I got there, they stopped talking and started to worry or confuse. Vaguely, I saw they just looked down to the hole they were digging. They had been stopped for a while and continued to dig out, dug a little more, around ½ meters, and found a large stone there that must have been at a tomb size. We can't keep digging anymore. Yeah, this stone is too big, filling this whole area. How could we dig more? The two guys who were digging looked at the men outside and talked aloud. There was indeed a huge stone, and they could not take it out or use dynamite to explore it. So, we gotta dig in another spot. There are still available spots. After discussion, they decided to move to another spot. They left the in-progressing hole containing the big stone aside. 2 holes at a time. That will not be good luck. One of them worked as burial services for such a long time. He said that must have brought them bad luck if they dug 2 holes on the same day. All right, but we need to bury in time. People were getting worried. At last, they discussed again and decided to dig another hole right next to the first one. They quickly dug another hole so that they could bury in the bury time. After the burial, the funeral would be started. Friends and relatives would come to share their condolences. As talked earlier, there was lots of food to make sure the visitors would have a bit to eat. Everyone in the family looked depressed and grieved for their mother's death. Everyone teared up. Even I was just a little kid. But I was unable to be in a good mood as well with that atmosphere. The death came to the family like an accident, so they were swamped keeping everything in good shape at the burial. They were too busy to remember to fill the in progressing hole up that contained the stone earlier. My grandma and I had stayed there for 3 days. After everything had been settled down, we headed back. I thought everything was over already, but a week later, our relative had come by and asked my grandma to come for another funeral. Our visitor was the eldest son in the family. That was my far cousin. I had seen him earlier at the funeral. Calm down, drink this and slowly tell me what happened. My grandma welcomed him with a cup of warm water and comforted him, then asked him what happened. The eldest son drank the cup of water, then tried to clear his throat and told my grandma. He looked at my grandma with tearful eyes and choked with emotion. His brother, the second son in the family, was a construction engineer, but he had followed a crew to work as a blue-collar worker. He had to use the wheelbarrow to bring sand, bricks to the construction site. That day, he and his co-workers worked, as usual. There was a recently built wall there. He was walking with the wheelbarrow. Without a sign, the wall suddenly felt flattened. The second son was unable to dodge, so he had been flattened by the falling bricked wall. Once his co-workers heard the sound and came there, he had been dead already, under the bricks. His lifeless body was covered with whole blood. The mother in the family just passed away a few days. The son as well, and the thing was about their village's tradition. Within 100 days after burial, there must have been no other burial could be carried out, so temporarily, the dead body of the second son was unable to be buried in their burial land at the foothill. They didn't know what to do with their son's coffin. Are you crazy? Why bring the coffin inside the house? Finally, the big brother decided to bring the coffin to his house. His wife had scolded him for that. She thought that might get them lousy luck. We were unable to give him a proper funeral. You want me to let him outside, cold-bloodedly, don't you? The big brother was pissed off at his wife, so they started to argue loudly. He didn't like his wife's attitude since she didn't want him to bring the coffin inside while he could not let his dear brother's dead body outside. I don't agree to put the coffin in our yard. His wife claimed that it would be bad luck to have a coffin at their house. She insisted her husband let the coffin somewhere else. I told you, I'm unable to let his coffin at a random place out there. He was my brother, just like yours. Think of how he treated us when he was alive. Why you're so tensed. He yelled at her, heartbrokenly. All right. Argument helps nothing. Bring the coffin in. You're right, but let it in the backyard. Please don't put it in the front yard, okay? Finally, she was convinced by her husband. He was like her brother genuinely. She gave ways to her family's harmony. Even the husband didn't seem happy to put his brother's coffin in the backyard, but he had no other's choice. He understood his wife well enough and could imagine what would happen if they kept the argument, come hell or high water. There was a sty in the backyard as well. That was not a good idea to put the coffin near the dump, but the husband gave his wife a compromise. He mumbled and asked his brother for forgiveness. And so, the coffin had been put in his backyard, right next to the sty. He was unable to change with his uneasiness. The day after, as the other days, the wife came out for the morning pig feeding. She was so surprised from what she could see. All of the pigs had escaped the sty at the corner. What happened? What the hell happened? She wondered. The gate was locked carefully for sure. She had raised pigs for years. How come the pigs all escaped and were running around like that? She thought of how the pigs could escape. Then she had been settled down. She tried to bring them back to the sty. Gosh, what is this? But then she stepped out and took a look. She was not surprised anymore but was extremely frightened. She was unable to believe that was truthfully happening in front of her eyes. Those escaped pigs were likely to try to break the coffin nearby. The coffin was opened, and the dead body of her brother-in-law had been felt out of the casket. She saw his body in the cold ground, covering with blood. Gosh, how could this happen? Oh my God. My brother, the wife had screamed out. The husband had heard her high-pitched voice and ran to the backyard. Saw all of that. He stood there frozen. He screamed aloud as well, then ran toward his brother's dead body in the cold ground. Oh my God. I'm sorry, brother, I'm so sorry. I was unable to bury you properly, my poor brother, I shouldn't let you here. The big brother was holding his brother's dead smelly body and started sobbing. The wife was standing nearby. She was very regretful for that, but she was unspeakable at that moment. Honey, stop crying. Quick, quick, put his body back to the coffin. It's smelly and scares me out. The wife was unable to stand there anymore. She spoke up. You have no right to talk to me like that. This is all your fault. He turned to his wife and lashed out at her. What she said earlier got him angry. He claimed that was the wife's fault. If she allows him to put the coffin in the front yard, that will not happen at all. What wrong if I think about this family? I'm afraid of bad luck. Why you claim me like that? She got angry as well. She didn't think she was wrong. You don't think that was your fault? Seeing her insistency, the husband got angrier and angrier. All of a sudden, he stood up. He clapped his wife so badly. You're beating me? Our love is nothing. I want to divorce. The wife got exacerbated and wanted to divorce. After then, she prepared to leave the house. She packed her bag full of her clothes inside. She would like to get back to her parents' house. Isabella, you're looking so bad. What happened? Are you guys arguing? While heading out, her neighbor had stopped her and asked. He was a very close neighbor to her family. Yeah, we argued. She quickly replied, then left hurriedly and angry. Hey, don't hurry. The neighbor tended to stop her. Hey, there is a moving train. At that moment, the neighbor had seen a sign of the moving train. He yelled at her and tried to stop her, but it was too late. The train's whistle was louder and louder. The wife was in a hurry to leave. She stepped in the railways, and even the neighbor was screaming. She could not hear him out. She failed to see the coming train sign. Everything was too late. The train quickly had come by right when the wife put her foot in the railway. She was flattened under the train's wheels. The train left her flesh and blood there. That was so tragic. That was not the first time there was someone dead because of the carelessness at the railway. The neighbor was tormented by that accident by seeing the whole thing. He wished he could stop her earlier from stepping in the railway. After the big brother's wife had passed away, he came to see my grandma again to announce the sad news. Such a poor guy. He had been mourned for his mother, his brother's deaths, and then his wife had been flattened by the train after arguing with him and leaving. Those consequences made him look like a zombie at that time. He wanted to ask my grandma to come and help to set up his wife's funeral, which was so much for him, honestly. All right, you could get back to your home. I'll arrange to come there. Those unexpected events had happened to my relative's family. That time had hit me lots. When I grow up, I have become a spiritual writer. I have studied a lot about psychics, and figured out the death of the second son was a result of the mistaken at the mother's burial. Regarding the end of the wife, that might be her fortune or the brother's revenge.